Hello there, my name is Paul Campbell, and I am going to continue to read You Know Something is Wrong When, an American Affidavit of Probable Cause. And today, we are going to be reading Part 6, The Civil War. The Civil War, where everything ran amok. 1860, Abraham Lincoln is elected President of the United States Commercial Company. March 27, 1861, 11 congressional delegations from the southern states walk out, leaving the Congress adjourned without an agreed upon date to meet again. Lincoln formed a Delaware corporation doing business as the United States of America, Inc., and installed the remaining members of Congress as a board of directors to continue to conduct business. The third big lie. The United States of America never signed any service contract with Lincoln's new corporation, doing business as the United States of America, Inc. Lincoln merely traded upon the Constitution for the United States of America and substituted this corporation as a successor trustee. Please note, United States Commercial Company does not equal the United States of America, Inc., does not equal the United States of America, Inc., does not equal the United States, Inc., does not equal USA, Inc., does not equal US Corp, does not equal the United States of America, Inc., does not equal e pluribus unum, the United States of America, Incorporated, and so on. All these similarly named corporate entities have been used to deceive and defraud the American states and the American people ever since. As a result, there is no valid contract binding the United States of America to any corporation merely claiming to be a successor to the United States Commercial Company, which Lincoln bankrupted on April 25, 1863. The international trustee, the Pope, the rector of the National Shrine, the British monarch, and since 1924, the Secretary of the Treasury should have intervened to protect the National Trust, and they all failed to do so. Despite the requirements of the only equity contract the Global Estate Trust had with the States of America, despite all the treaties promising friendship and amity in perpetuity, and despite the loyal support of the Americans through 2 world wars. These false trustees allowed this situation to continue and have profited from it for over 150 years. One stinking word, person. 1862. The corporate Congress changes the meaning of a single word. That word was person. From 1862 to today, the word person means corporation and federalese. Ever since that time, members of Congress have functioned as officers of a private, mostly foreign-owned corporation. April 1863. On April 24, 1863, Lincoln issued General Order 100 and put the Grand Army of the Republic in charge of the nation's destiny. On April 25, 1863, he bankrupted the original United States Commercial Company. April 1865, as the armistice is signed, the southern states are in ruins and under military occupation. The northern states are bankrupt. There is no real government, just the army and a phony Congress operating a commercial corporation called the United States of America, Inc. President Andrew Johnson declared peace on the land 3 times. Peace is declared. May 10, 1865, peace on the land. April 2nd, 1866, we are at peace. August 20th, 1863.
6.
Yet despite the armistice signed by Grant on the land and the peace declared by Johnson, the Rump Congress, acting only as the board of directors of a private for-profit corporation, kept the war going in the jurisdiction of the sea. Together, the 39th and 40th congressional sessions violated the Constitution of the United States of America. They chartered under 6 different ways. Article 5, Section 5 was violated as shown by the House Journal, March 3rd, 1866, page 353. Article 3, Section 3 was violated by the Reconstruction Acts of 1867. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 3 was violated by the Reconstruction Acts of 1867. Article 4, Section 4 was violated by the Reconstruction Act's denial of a Republican form of government to the Southern states after the armistice. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 was violated by the 39th Congress unlawfully exercising exclusive legislation outside their district and allowed federal enclaves. Article 4, Section 3 was violated when the 39th Congress formed unlawful de facto federal states within the organic states of the Union to operate as franchises of the United States of America, Inc. Poisoning the well. The Reconstruction Acts of 1867 through 68. The same corporate Congress claiming to represent the American states while acting as officers of a private for-profit, deceptively named Governmental Services Corporation created 5 military districts in 10 southern states and allowed the military district commanders to appoint judges to run civil tribunals to deal with rebels still at large. This created a form of law called Special Admiralty or Presidential Admiralty, which is not addressed under any constitution and not allowed under any constitution then or now. The courts practicing it display of stars and stripes with a heavy gold fringe. This administrative abuse of both civil authority and military power has continued unabated for lack of a coherent and honest civil government ever since. More filth from the Rump Congress. The Corporate Constitution in 1868, the Corporate Congress published its corporate articles and bylaws as a new constitution, which is gratuitously wrote all by itself and for itself. This document, called the Constitution of the United States of America, was purposely given a deceptively similar name to the Constitution of the United States of America to fool people, and it adopted much of the same language. It was a look-alike, sounded like fake, and a different kind of document entirely. As the articles and bylaws of a commercial corporation, there was no need for any ratification of amendments by the several states. Any states created under its auspices could only be franchises of the parent company anyway. Secretary of State William Seward simply declared the 14th Amendment to this Constitution ratified. Mere lip service was given to the process of ratification by the states. Yeah, don't worry. We ratified it properly. Sure, fellas, trust me, everything is fine. Go back to sleep. Secretary of State William Seward. 28 U.S.C. 302, 15A. United States equals federal corporation equals commercial corporation doing business as United States. The 14th bylaw. The 14th Amendment excludes American state citizens from voting in the private corporate elections held by the United States of America, Inc. American state citizens are referred to as peaceful inhabitants of land, and they are specifically disenfranchised. The 14th rotten fraud upon the people. All persons, which means corporations and federales, and citizens of the United States, didn't say United States of America. This is talking about the commercial corporation, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, which is not the jurisdiction of the land, but instead a corporate and commercial jurisdiction that existed only in the international jurisdiction of the sea. The 14th Amendment seems to be talking about people on the land, but instead is talking about corporations belonging to the United States, Inc., operating in the jurisdiction of the sea. It is purposely, maliciously deceitful in every respect, designed to confuse anyone who wasn't in on the scam and aware of the federal meaning of person adopted in 1862. The same 14th Amendment established federal states, that is, state franchises of the federal corporation, and extended territorial jurisdiction to them. A group of crooks running a private, for-profit, mostly foreign-owned corporation usurped our rightful government. Sure, they were elected to some kind of office in something called the United States Congress. Whatever United States that might be, in whichever Congress, either. Was it the Congress of the United States? The Congress of the United States? The Congress of the United States? Or maybe the Congress of the United States of America? Or maybe the U.S. Congress? Or could it be oh yes, I'm here in Washington, D.C., representing you and our grand old State of the Union, any old way I please, with no accountability whatsoever. That quote was from Congressman Bill Blatherskite. The fraud has been going on since 1861. Just so we are clear, when American state citizens elect members of Congress to public office, most people take their oaths to the United States of America, Major, and they act as deputies, fiduciary officers, who are 100% individually and commercially liable for their acts. When United States citizens elect members of their corporate Congress to private corporate offices, they take their oaths to the United States Corporation, and they merely claim to represent the people and the places they come from. Representatives, like actors of other kinds, can represent people any way they wish, and they bear no responsibility for a poor performance. Pledge of Allegiance. I, securing your individual consent, pledge an ancient feudal act of admitting servitude to a king, my allegiance, giving fealty to a king, to the United States of America, Incorporated, and to the Republic, that's us, for which it stands. The perpetrators popularized the Pledge of Allegiance through public schools across America as a means of securing verbal contracts and brainwashing 3 generations of school children. Nobody asked, why would the Republic, our rightful government, need anything else to stand for it? The best argument for never voting in any of their elections. Senator Pirate. Well, it's your own fault. You're the one who gave me your proxy and let me represent you. You should have known better than that. You people are so stupid. 2nd of February, 1871. 41st Congress, 3rd Session, Chapters 62, 63, 64, and 65. The Congress declared itself to be the successor of all United States corporations and the property of all said corporations. They claimed to own every corporation in America that was formed under United States auspices. And that claim to own all corporations is why they incorporate you. The dilemma of the states, and state of states. The original state of New York represented the landmass state and the people inhabiting the actual state. As a result of the Civil War conundrum, this original state of New York was reconstituted as the New York State, and the name State of New York was instead applied to the newly created federal state of New York, operating in the jurisdiction of the sea. We also have the state of New York, operating under the draconian military law of the Washington, D.C. municipality. As if that wasn't enough, the UN Corporation has gotten into the act and sponsored its state franchise operating simply as New York. Thanks to the duplicity and deceit involved in operating two states or more at the same time, the state legislators are not fulfilling their proper function for the jurisdiction of the land. This has resulted in the federal government running amok and rampart over the rights of the actual states and the people inhabiting them. The problem has been exacerbated by the fact that no new states on the land have been added to the Union since 1860. This is because Congress stopped functioning as a Congress of deputies representing the states on the land and has had no power to actually create and add new states on the land via the Northwest Ordinance and Equal Footing Doctrine ever since. Technically, the Western states are not states. They are states in waiting, promised all the perks and rights by commercial contract and trust indenture, but having no separate and sovereign status under international law. Correction requires the legislators of the original states on the land formed prior to 1860 to resume functioning in behalf of the land jurisdiction and to hold the federal government and the Global Estate Trust to account. It remains for all Americans to hold the members of Congress to account and to force them to convene as deputies as required by the Constitution for the United States of America and to invoke the Northwest Ordinance and Equal Footing Doctrine to fully seat and create the Western states as states on the land, not quasi-federal possessions owed equivalent rights. As this brief expose shows, a tremendous amount of confusion has been deliberately and inexcusably added to the original government structure, and that confusion has been used by crooks to defraud and control both Americans and the American states on the land. As is also evident, a good deal of the blame for this comes home to the United States Congress, which has grotesquely and criminally malfunctioned for many decades, leaving a great deal of housekeeping and house cleaning to be done. As is also apparent, the Global Estate Trust and the international trustee responsible have failed to honor their sacred trust. The popes have ignored and profited from this situation, and so have the British monarchs. The actual trustee responsible for administering the land jurisdiction was outflanked by the renegade Congress, and his office was made subservient to none other than the Secretary of the Treasury and the criminally inclined banking cartels, hand-chosen bankruptcy trustee, the Secretary of the Treasury of Puerto Rico. If there remains any kind of lawful authority vested in any human institution on earth, the Church, the British monarchy, the Congress, individual state legislators, the United Nations, the World Court, anything anywhere, then these acts of fraud and neglect must be recognized for what they are and forthrightly corrected. Otherwise, we must stop pretending that there is any such thing as the rule of law, and admit that those pretending to administer law have instead operated as brigands and con artists, acting as predators against the people and nations they have always been under contract and obligation to serve and protect. SOS! Mayday! Mayday! Any lawful court or government left on earth. Natural law, democracy, and the contract. The founders of the United States of America defined law to be the law of nature and nature's God, which is law that derives its moral authority from nothing less than nature and the Holy Spirit. Men are born free to walk, talk, gather together, express their complaints, contract, work, trade, to have a home, to enjoy the fruits of their labor, own property, and do many other things freely by nature. Those rights are natural law and are unalienable. They cannot be deprived, nor taxed, nor licensed. Those who live within the law are law abiding, and those who live outside the law are outlaws. When on land and pirates on the sea. The Bible forbids mankind from making legislation, Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 2. And for Christians, the true law was further reduced to only 2 precepts: to love God, Matthew chapter 22, verse 37, and love your neighbor as yourself, Mark chapter 12, verse 31. These laws, if properly observed, are complete, entire, and sufficient for the conduct of all business, all relationships, and all needs. They lead directly to moral behavior among men. Unfortunately, democracy, which literally means mob rule, is immoral because it constantly violates the inherent rights of individuals. In the United States of America, minor, composed of 57 federal states, is a constitutional democracy. If 51% of your neighbors wish to eat you for dinner, they may do so by invoking majority rule. In a democracy, which is precisely why our forefathers ordained and our contract with Global Estate Trust requires a republican form of government, which represents the natural rights of individuals above the wishes of majorities. This is a major contractual failure on the part of the Global Estate Trust and those individuals and offices responsible for maintaining the rule of law. That was part 6. Next time we'll be going over part 7, more chicanery.